Hey everyone, welcome back to the Speaking Smart IELTS. Today, we're diving into one of those topics that feels simple when you say it out loud, but really tests who you are when life hits you hard, staying calm under pressure. Let's be honest, we all love the idea of being that cool, collected person who doesn't lose it when things go sideways. You know, that person who somehow manages to smile during a crisis, speak clearly when everyone else is shouting, and make decisions that actually work. But if we're being real, most of us at some point have completely lost it. Maybe it was during a big exam, or a heated argument at work, or when everything you planned for weeks suddenly goes wrong. Pressure has this sneaky way of showing us what we're really made of. And here's the thing. Being calm under pressure isn't just about personality. It's not only for the naturally chill people, it's actually a skill. Something you can learn, practice, and get really good at. And that's what we're exploring today. What makes people stay calm when others panic? What's actually happening in our minds and bodies when we're stressed out? And what you can do to build that inner sense of peace even when life feels like chaos. So, picture this. You're standing in front of a crowd, maybe your boss, your team, your classmates, and you're about to give a presentation. You've practiced it 100 times, you know your stuff. But suddenly your heart starts pounding like a drum. Your palms are sweaty, your mouth feels dry, and your mind, blank, just blank. Sound familiar? That's pressure, and it doesn't always have to come from huge life events. Sometimes it's tiny, a conversation you don't want to have, an unexpected message, or even the sound of someone criticizing your work. The point is, pressure triggers the same thing in all of us, the body's stress response. Let's unpack that a little bit. When you're under stress, your brain detects a threat, real or imagined, and activates something called the fight-or-flight response. Basically, your body goes, uh-oh, danger's coming. Your heart rate shoots up, your breathing gets shallow, and your body floods with adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones that are meant to help you survive. In ancient times, that was useful. If you saw a wild animal charging toward you, that burst of energy helped you run or fight. But in modern life, the danger is rarely physical. It's not a lion. It's your boss's email, your deadline, your bills, your relationship drama. And the body reacts the same way. That's why you feel like your chest is tight or your stomach's in knots, even though you're just sitting at your desk. Now, here's where the art of staying calm begins. Realizing that the stress reaction isn't something to get rid of. It's something to manage. You can't stop your body from reacting, but you can decide how long you let that reaction control you. There's a great quote I once heard from Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. He said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." That's exactly what staying calm under pressure is about. Using that little space between what happens and how you react. When something goes wrong, most people skip that space. They react immediately. Yell, freeze, panic, or make a rash decision. But calm people, they use that pause. They breathe, they observe, and they choose their next move carefully. That's the art part. And you know what's interesting? Being calm doesn't mean being emotionless. It's not about pretending you don't care or ignoring what's happening. It's about having control over your emotions, instead of letting them control you. Let me give you a story. Something that really illustrates this. A few years ago, I was watching this documentary about airline pilots. There was one scene where the flight suddenly loses both engines mid-air, complete power loss. The co-pilot starts panicking. The alarms are blaring, passengers are screaming, and yet the captain, he's just calm. He's speaking slowly, methodically, checking systems, talking to air traffic control. Within minutes, they managed to land safely. Later, when reporters asked how he stayed so calm, he said, "If I panic, everyone panics. My job isn't to feel calm. It's to act calm until it becomes real." That line stuck with me. Act calm until it becomes real. Because that's what so much of composure is about. Training yourself to act like the person you want to be until your brain catches up. So let's talk about how you can train that muscle. Because yes, staying calm is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. The first and most basic thing, control your breathing. Sounds too simple, right? But it's science. When you're anxious, your breathing gets shallow. which sends a signal to your brain that you're in danger. In turn, your brain releases more stress hormones, making you feel worse. But if you slow your breathing, deep, steady, controlled, you send the opposite message. I'm safe. I've got this. One technique I love is the 4-7-8 method. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, exhale for 8. It sounds a bit awkward at first, but it actually helps regulate your nervous system. Even Navy SEALs use similar breathing exercises before missions. The second skill, shift your focus from outcome to process. When you're under pressure, your mind often jumps to the result. What if I fail? What if they don't like it? What if I look stupid? But those thoughts are completely unhelpful in the moment. They only increase anxiety. Calm people redirect attention to what's right in front of them, the task, the step, the next word. It's not about ignoring the outcome. It's about trusting that the outcome will take care of itself if you handle the process right. Think about athletes. When a tennis player is serving for the match, if they start thinking, "Oh my God, if I win this point, I'll make history," they'll tense up. But the best players don't think like that. They focus on the motion, the breath, the ball. That's presence. And presence is calmness. Number 3, embrace perspective. I know it's a cliche, but seriously, zoom out. Most of the time, the things that make us panic aren't as big as they feel. Will it matter next week? Next year? Probably not. When you widen your perspective, pressure loses power. You can even try what I call the 5-year question. Will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, take a deep breath and let it go. It's surprisingly freeing. Number 4, train under pressure before the real thing. You can't expect to stay calm in chaos if you've never faced discomfort before. That's why elite performers, soldiers, surgeons, athletes, all practice with intensity. They deliberately simulate pressure so that when it happens for real, it doesn't shock their system. You can do this too. If you're afraid of public speaking, practice in front of people. If you hate being criticized, ask for feedback more often. If you panic about deadlines, set shorter ones on purpose. You're teaching your brain that pressure isn't a threat. It's just energy you can channel. And let's not forget, your mindset matters. Some people crumble under pressure because they see it as a test. Others thrive because they see it as a challenge. Same situation, different story. And our brains love stories. The way you frame stress changes how your body reacts to it. There's even a Harvard study showing that when people reframe anxiety as excitement, telling themselves, "I'm excited," instead of, "I'm scared," their performance actually improves. Here's the catch, though. Being calm doesn't always mean being still. Sometimes staying calm is about taking smart action. When pressure hits, your brain wants clarity. So the best thing you can do is give it something to do. Write a plan, make a small decision, take a micro step. Motion creates momentum, and momentum helps stabilize emotions. But let's get real. Even with all the strategies in the world, there will be moments when calmness feels impossible. Like when something deeply personal happens, a breakup, a loss, a big failure, and your emotions just take over. In those times, staying calm doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means letting the storm pass without letting it define you. You can cry, scream, or take time off. But underneath it all, there's this quiet voice that says, "I'll be okay." That voice? That's your calm. It's still there, even when everything else is chaos. You just need to remember how to listen to it. And speaking of listening, calm people are usually good listeners. Think about someone you trust when things go wrong. They don't necessarily talk a lot, do they? They listen, they observe, they process. Listening slows down your thinking, and slowing down thinking is how you get back in control. Another powerful tool, detach from ego. A lot of panic comes from protecting our image. What will people think of me? I can't mess up. They'll judge me. But here's a secret. People are too busy worrying about themselves to think about you. When you realize that, half your stress disappears. You stop performing for approval and start acting with authenticity. And that authenticity, it's magnetic. People naturally trust calm, authentic individuals. That's why leaders who stay composed inspire confidence. It's not because they have all the answers. It's because they project steadiness in uncertainty. I once worked with a manager who was the definition of calm under pressure. We were in a meeting where everything went wrong. Deadlines missed, clients angry. The whole thing was a mess. While everyone started blaming each other, she just said, "Okay, let's pause for 2 minutes. Everyone take a breath." It felt weird at first, silence in a heated room. But after that pause, people started thinking clearly again. She turned chaos into cooperation, just by staying grounded. And that's the real impact of calmness. It's contagious. Your energy influences everyone around you. When you panic, others panic. When you're composed, people mirror that too. Calm isn't selfish, it's leadership. Now, some people might think, but isn't being calm under pressure kind of cold? Doesn't it make you less passionate? Not at all. True calmness doesn't kill passion. It protects it. It's like a dam controlling a river. Without the dam, the river floods everything. With it, you can direct the flow exactly where you want. Passion without calm is chaos. Calm without passion is apathy. But together, that's power. Let's talk about something deeper. Self-awareness. You can't stay calm if you don't know what triggers you. Everyone has something that instantly sets them off. Maybe being criticized, being ignored, being rushed. If you can name your triggers, you can tame them. The next time pressure rises, instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" you can say, "This is my trigger. Okay, I see it." That awareness breaks the cycle. A helpful practice here is journaling, not just about what happened, but how you felt and what you did. Over time, patterns appear. You'll notice the same emotions showing up before you lose control. That's your cue to intervene earlier next time. You can also use physical anchors, small gestures that remind your brain to stay calm. Maybe it's touching your thumb and forefinger together, or exhaling slowly before speaking. These anchors work because they create a link between mind and body, a silent signal that says, "Stay steady." There's also something to be said about humor. You'd be amazed how powerful humor is under pressure. Laughing, even just smiling, releases endorphins and lowers stress hormones. It's your body's built-in reset button. Ever notice how people crack jokes in tough situations? That's not immaturity. That's emotional intelligence. Humor creates distance between you and the problem, and in that distance, calmness lives. Of course, no discussion about calmness would be complete without mentioning mindfulness. I know, it's become a buzzword, but the practice itself is ancient. Mindfulness is simply paying attention, really paying attention, to what's happening now, without judgment. When you're mindful, you stop fighting the moment. You stop wishing it were different. You just see it. And in that clarity, panic loses its grip. Try it the next time you're stressed. Instead of saying, "This is horrible," say, "This is pressure. I can feel it in my chest, my shoulders." You're not denying it, you're naming it. Naming emotions is like shining light on shadows. It makes them less scary. And let's not forget, rest is underrated. You can't stay calm if you're constantly exhausted, overstimulated, or running on caffeine. Your nervous system needs recovery time, sleep, nature, movement, quiet. These aren't luxuries. They're prerequisites for composure. You might notice how easily you snap when you're tired or hungry. That's not bad character. That's biology. If you want to stay calm under pressure, you've got to take care of the basics. No one can regulate emotions on an empty tank. And finally, something that ties it all together: purpose. When you know why you're doing something, pressure becomes meaningful instead of menacing. Think about firefighters, doctors, or teachers. Their work involves massive pressure, but they keep going because the purpose matters more than the pain. Purpose gives pressure context. Instead of thinking, "This is too much," you think, "This is part of what I signed up for." And that small shift changes everything. So, where were we? Yes, purpose, that deep why behind what we do. It's funny how much pressure changes shape when you're anchored by something meaningful. When you have a purpose, challenges stop feeling like attacks and start feeling like part of the process. It's like a musician facing stage fright before a concert. The nerves don't disappear, but they turn into energy, into focus, into passion. That's the secret most calm people know. It's not that they don't feel the heat. They've just learned how to use it. Pressure, in many ways, is a privilege. It only shows up when something matters. Nobody feels pressure about things they don't care about. You don't panic about tying your shoes, right? But you might stress over a big interview or a project presentation. Why? Because it matters to you. So maybe the first step to mastering calmness isn't avoiding pressure. It's embracing it as proof that you're alive, that you're growing, that you care. The goal isn't to live a pressure-free life. It's to become someone who can stay centered no matter what's happening. But let's be real. Saying that is easier than living it. Because staying calm doesn't come naturally when life starts throwing curveballs. Maybe you've had those moments. You wake up one day and everything seems fine. And then suddenly, it's like the universe decided to test your patience all at once. Your phone's buzzing nonstop, your inbox is overflowing, you're late for a meeting, and someone just spilled coffee on your laptop. In that kind of moment, calmness feels like the last thing you have time for. But here's the paradox. It's exactly what you need the most. Let's talk about what actually helps in those moments. Not the theory, but the small, practical actions that turn chaos into clarity. One of my favorites is grounding. When your thoughts start racing, grounding brings you back to the present. There's a simple exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. It sounds almost childish, but it's incredibly effective. It shifts your brain out of panic mode and into awareness. Then there's the power of language. The words you say to yourself in stressful moments matter more than you think. Most of us have a running commentary in our heads, and under pressure, that voice can be brutal. You're going to mess up. You can't handle this. You're not ready. But here's the thing. Your brain listens. If you speak panic, it responds with panic. Try flipping that script. Instead of "I can't do this," say "I've got this." Instead of "this is impossible," say "this is challenging, but I'll figure it out." You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing better words. The calmest people often have the most disciplined self-talk. They treat their inner voice like a coach, not a critic. You can even anchor yourself with short mantras, simple phrases that remind you of who you are. Things like, "Breathe, you've done harder things," or "This moment will pass." These micro reminders become your lifelines when emotions rise. Another powerful habit. Don't make big decisions in a small mood. When you're emotional, angry, scared, or anxious, your thinking narrows. You see only the worst possibilities. That's not the time to quit your job, send that angry text, or make any life-changing call. Calm people know how to wait. They pause. They say, "Let's sleep on it." That pause isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because clarity rarely comes in chaos. It comes after stillness. Here's something else that helps. Focus on what you can control. Pressure thrives in uncertainty. The more you obsess over things you can't influence, what people think, how the market reacts, what the weather does, the more powerless you feel. But when you shift attention to what you can control, your effort, your tone, your next action, you instantly regain power. You can't calm the storm, but you can calm yourself. And once you do, the storm starts to lose its impact. Let me share a quick story here. A friend of mine, let's call him David, was once leading a product launch. Weeks of work, huge expectations. On launch day, everything went wrong. Servers crashed, Customers couldn't log in. The press was already writing about the failure. The team was in full panic mode. But David just said, "Okay, let's stop for 5 minutes. Everyone write down one thing they can fix in the next hour." It changed everything. Instead of spiraling about what went wrong, the team focused on what they could do now. Within hours, the system was back online, the customers were informed, and the damage was minimal. Later, when I asked how he kept his cool, he said, "I don't have time to panic. Panic solves nothing." That sentence hit me. Panic solves nothing. It feels dramatic in the moment, but it never helps. Calmness, on the other hand, clears the fog. It lets you see the next step. But calmness isn't just about action. It's also about acceptance. There are times when pressure comes from fighting reality. You want something to go a certain way, but it doesn't. You wish someone acted differently, but they won't. You're holding on to how things should be instead of dealing with how things are. That resistance amplifies stress. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing clearly. It's saying, "Okay, this is where I am. Now what can I do with it?" Once you accept, you can adapt. And adaptation is the essence of calm. Let's take an everyday example, traffic. You're late, you're stuck, and the car in front of you is barely moving. You can honk, shout, and curse, but none of that will make the cars move faster. The only thing it does is raise your blood pressure. But if you accept it, really accept it, you might put on a podcast, take a few deep breaths, and use the time to think. The situation didn't change, but your reaction did. That's control. Another aspect of staying calm under pressure is emotional regulation. Understanding how your emotions move and how to guide them instead of being dragged by them. The best way to do that? Name what you feel. I'm anxious. I'm overwhelmed. I'm angry. It sounds simple, but naming emotions activates the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, and quiets the emotional centers. You move from feeling the emotion to observing it. When you observe your emotions instead of becoming them, you regain your power. You go from "I am angry" to "I'm noticing anger." That tiny shift in language changes everything. Also, don't underestimate your environment. The calmer your surroundings, the easier it is to stay balanced. That's why people say tidy space, tidy mind. When your room, desk, or digital life is chaos, it adds invisible pressure. Simplify your space. Simplify your stress. And speaking of simplicity, multitasking is one of the biggest calm killers. We live in a world that celebrates being busy, but true calm comes from doing one thing at a time, fully. When you try to handle 10 things at once, your brain fragments. You might feel productive, but you're actually just spinning plates. So the next time you're overwhelmed, try doing the opposite. Focus on one single task. It's amazing how much lighter things feel when you give something your full attention. Now, let's shift to something deeper: resilience. Staying calm under pressure isn't about never feeling stress. It's about recovering fast when stress hits. That's resilience, the ability to bounce back. Resilience comes from 3 main things: mindset, preparation, and community. Mindset is how you interpret pressure, whether you see it as threat or growth. We talked about that earlier, but it's worth repeating. Your brain responds to your perception. Preparation reduces fear. The more prepared you are, the calmer you'll be. Think of musicians who practice their pieces hundreds of times. By performance day, their muscle memory takes over. Preparation creates confidence, and confidence breeds calm. And finally, community. You don't have to carry pressure alone. Talking things out with a trusted friend or mentor isn't weakness, it's regulation. Sharing helps process emotions. Calmness multiplies when it's shared. Here's an insight from psychology. When you verbalize your fears, the emotional intensity drops. It's like taking a balloon that's overinflated and letting a little air out. So when you're overwhelmed, find your pressure valve, someone who listens without judgment. Let's pause and reflect for a second. Think about a time you stayed calm under pressure. Maybe during an exam, a crisis at work, or a tough conversation. What did you do differently? Chances are, you slowed down, breathed, focused, and trusted yourself. That's the formula right there. Slow, breathe, focus, trust. Now, on the flip side, think of a time you didn't stay calm. You reacted, said something you regretted, or panicked. What was missing? Usually, it's one of those 4 steps. Maybe you didn't slow down. Maybe you forgot to breathe. Maybe you lost focus or doubted yourself. The good news is, every stressful moment is a training session. Life constantly gives you opportunities to practice composure. Every delay, every conflict, every misunderstanding. It's a tiny dojo for emotional growth. And the more you practice calm in small moments, the easier it gets in big ones. That's why monks and mindfulness experts train through simple daily rituals, walking slowly, eating mindfully, sitting in silence. They're building mental stillness one breath at a time. You can start small too. For example, the next time someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of cursing, take one conscious breath. That's your rep, your calm rep. Do that 100 times, and you're rewiring your brain for peace. Because neuroscience tells us, calmness isn't just a mindset, it's a pattern. The more you practice responding calmly, the more neural pathways you build around that behavior. Over time, calm becomes your default mode. There's one last piece to all this: self-compassion. You can't master calm if you keep beating yourself up for not being calm enough. Some people say, "Ugh, I'm terrible under pressure." But that's just another layer of pressure. Instead, treat yourself like you would a close friend. Be patient. You're learning. Remember, even the calmest people lose it sometimes. The goal isn't perfection, then it's progress. Each time you catch yourself before reacting, each time you take that extra breath, you're winning. I once heard a story about a Buddhist monk who was known for his serene presence. A visitor asked, "How do you stay so calm all the time?" The monk laughed and said, "Oh, I'm not calm all the time. I just return to calm faster than most." That's the essence right there. It's not about never being shaken. It's about returning to calm more quickly, more gracefully, each time life throws you off balance. And maybe that's the art we're really talking about. Not the absence of storms, but the ability to find your center in the middle of them. Because the truth is, life will always bring pressure. Deadlines, disappointments, disagreements, they'll keep showing up. But calm isn't about waiting for life to stop being hard. It's about learning how to move through difficulty with grace. When you can stay calm, you see solutions others miss. You speak with more clarity, listen more deeply, and lead more wisely. Calmness becomes your competitive edge in work, relationships, and even in your own mind. So, if you take one thing away from this episode, let it be this: pressure is inevitable, but panic is optional. You can train yourself, breath by breath, to turn tension into strength, chaos into clarity, and fear into focus. Start small. One breath, one pause, one choice at a time. Because calm isn't something you find out there. It's something you build in here, inside yourself. And once you've built it, no amount of pressure can take it away. Thanks for listening. And remember, staying calm under pressure isn't about never feeling the heat. It's about learning how to breathe in the fire and still see clearly.